Yo, everybody, it's your friend, me and Buster Green, and there's some minor cartoon updates worth covering. We actually got a complete avalanche of good news on Wednesday, so much good news that it took me all the way into Thursday to validate all this stuff. So let's start simple. A huge deal came out of Disney to renew all of the animation domination shows. All of them are getting 4-year extensions, including the recently acquired from TBS and Zaslav American Dad, and The Simpsons. Now, there is kind of an argument that The Simpsons is definitely past its prime and should probably end, especially as more and more of the voice actors keep quitting or dying from the show, and they have to either ignore them or write them off. Otherwise, the deal is being heralded as an unprecedented good move out of Disney and a strong show of their commitment to their animation roots. There is one little fine print of detail, though, that is a little bit annoying to some people in this story, that for the next 4 years, these shows have been renewed, but they've also been renewed with shortened seasons down to 15 episodes, whereas in the past, a majority of them had 22 episodes per season, which is kind of like the standard with like shows nowadays, but it still kind of sucks. But hopefully this means they're going for quality over quantity, and hopefully this will lead to better episodes of Simpsons and Family Guy at least. We then got some minor news yesterday that a new season of South Park is dropping supposedly in July 9th, with new episodes right now being shared up. Now, this is kind of weird and far away, considering that in the past, South Park just came out with episodes sometimes days, if not hours, after they'd finished production. There's a rumor right now that the delay we're seeing right now is because the deal with South Park and HBO Max expires this year, and so possibly Paramount seems to be waiting the deal out. So that means also that the season might be a full 12-episode season and not the 6-episode half seasons we've gotten for HBO half the time. But it still is extremely shitty that when they signed this deal with HBO, they reacted to the deal by making less South Park than they would otherwise usually make. So HBO has every right to be pissed at them for that. Now, speaking of HBO, Fiona and Cake Season 2 is also announced, and they're done production-wise. They finished production yesterday, and that will be releasing in some form on HBO Max on August 15th, which came to a surprise to most people who were completely unaware this was even happening in development. Because what happened in Fiona and Cake Season 1, it seemed like a really self-contained story about Fiona's path and like Simon Petrikov's path, but it really overperformed. It was one of the top shows on HBO when it was airing, and because it did so well in the ratings, it was announced when the last episode aired that it earned a second season. But that was kind of just like a promise, and that was it. So now that the show is done and ready to be released, everyone's kind of shocked. And then the big news yesterday, what was happening was we got news at CinemaCon that 3 new animated movies are coming from Warner Brothers Pictures Animation or their subsidiaries. And what they announced was there was going to be a Flintstones movies first, then a Looney Tunes movie, and then a Tom and Jerry movie. So I guess that's the main story here. Let's get into it. So yeah, I'm going to try and take the pieces together here and figure out what's what, because there's a little bit more here that most people didn't look deep into. So let's start with the Flintstones movie, where there is a lot to look into. The Flintstone movie is called Meet the Flintstones, which is the name of the theme song. So this one is the furthest along now because it's actually been trapped in cinematic development hell for over 10 years now. So this movie started life in 2014. Previously, before this, Seth MacFarlane had tried to reboot The Simpsons as a Family Guy clone for Fox. Despite that being one of his major life goals as a first-generation Cartoon Network employee, he never carried it out. The show even got embarrassingly announced with a trailer on the network, despite no work actually being done. So Seth MacFarlane really dropped the ball there. When someone pressed him on it later, he said that his reason he never made the show was he apparently just couldn't figure out a way in which Fred Flintstone and Peter Griffin were not the same character. And that's bullshit. I would argue that the only thing the two of them even have in common is the fact they're just dimwit fathers who are bad at their jobs. But overall, Peter is a pop culture nerd and Fred is a fucking caveman with a baby. Like, I'm pretty sure Fred is in his early 30s compared to Peter being in his mid 40s just by the age of their kids. And that in itself is a major perspective difference, besides the numerous cultural differences between Bedrock compared to Rhode Island. So yeah, Seth fucked it up and lost the Flintstones IP. When Seth lost it, it was then given to Adam McKay and Will Ferrell, you know, those guys. They started the rock rolling on this new version, and the plan was for it to come out in 2014 and it to be a full CGI reboot of the Flintstones, introducing the Flintstones to a new audience. It was probably going to be a lot like that CGI Addams Family movie that came out about the same time that this was announced. So yeah, it would have been like that. Maybe a little bit also like Scoob, but hopefully without the cinematic universe drama. And yeah, the title was locked down then and there as Meet the Flintstones, and it was given an original release date of 2018. Unfortunately, 2018 came and went, but I think it's also worth mentioning that in between there, 2016 happened, and in 2016, 2 years after this announcement, DC rolled out its Hanna-Barbera Beyond storyline of comics, which was freaking wild. There were these reboots of Hanna-Barbera properties as DC Comics, and a lot of these were really good. The most popular of these was the ultra-dark horror take on Scooby-Doo called Scooby-Doo Apocalypse. There was also a Johnny Quest Space Ghost straight DC-style crossover called Future Quest, and the second most popular was actually the Flintstones. I haven't read all the issues, but the Flintstones comic from 2016 was freaking wild. It had edge of your seat satire on like the first Trump administration and like numerous like aspects of modern life. Like people nowadays would accuse this comic of being woke, but fuck that. It's really funny, and I just thought the social commentary was like so on point. Like there's this comment here like satirizing marriage where the cavemen are just like straight up anti-marriage because they've only known polygamy and orgies to that point, and apparently marriage threads their like local orgy business. By the way, I can't mention this comic series without bringing up that my favorite one of the entire run was Garth Ennis's Dick Dastardly. Kind of made no sense, but a complete wild ride where Dick Dastardly was originally this Air Force pilot whose life went to hell in this like toon apocalypse, and like he was constantly subjected to like existential horror. Anyway, right now Meet the Flintstones has a tentative release date of Christmas 2025. Yeah, that's like 9 months from now, so that's shockingly soon. I want to hope they'll meet that, and then the plan is they'll go into Looney Tunes next. Now, there's no clear voice cast for the film. When Adam McKay was still the director, John C. Reilly was going to be Fred, and I guess Will Ferrell was going to be Barney by that extension, so the movie would be like Step Brothers 2.0. But I'm pretty sure Adam McKay is no longer attached to the project, so I wouldn't count on those castings. Then there were some fake news stories that thought the movie was live action and thought The Rock or Adam Sandler were going to be Fred. Like, look at this fake poster. What the fuck is up with this poster? Is this AI? You guys wrote the twice. The Flintstones? Come on, guys, get it together. And then most recently, the most incredible rumor I heard is that Chris Pratt has been cast as Fred for this new version. But fuck that, I don't want to believe that. If that's true, I'm like going to like shoot myself. Like, how is Chris Pratt the only single actor getting roles in Hollywood lately? Like, did someone just pass a law that if the character is white, he can only be Chris Pratt or Jack Black? Now, after years in development hell, the movie resurfaced for the first time last year at Warner Brothers Lightbox, where they announced Todd Wilderman and Hamish Grieve were now in charge of the project. And these guys are supposedly developing the project with Aardman Animation. Todd is most famous for being the director on Open Season and Abominable, and he's done storyboard development on a ton of CG projects in the past, like Under the Boardwalk and Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. And Hamish is also a storyboard artist, most famous for Flushed Away, and he apparently met Todd working on Under the Boardwalk. But he's also done like Mitchell vs. the Machines and a few other cartoon movies. But yeah, it seems like overall what's happening right now is we're getting a trilogy of Cartoon Network Cinematic Universe movies from a duo that made Under the Boardwalk. Wow, did everyone see Under the Boardwalk? It had crabs from New Jersey. I'm from New Jersey. I relate to that. By the way, I haven't seen Flushed Away, but I have seen Under the Boardwalk, and that movie is very, very bad. I don't think I can even review it because I watched it once. It was totally a ripoff of West Side Story, except maybe somehow more racist. And yeah, I don't ever want to think or speak of it again, and this video is causing me to think and speak of it quite a lot, actually. Anyways, yeah, so supposedly they're going to finish the Flintstones movie. Hopefully everyone loves that, and then as long as that works, they're going to move straight on to this Looney Tunes movie. And then after the Looney Tunes movie, Tom and Jerry is queued up as the third next thing they're doing. So onto the Looney Tunes movie. This is supposedly happening. It's supposedly in the very early stages. By all accounts, it's the next thing in the queue after Meet the Flintstones is shipped in winter, as long as that's a total success and Zaslav doesn't grow to hate these guys. This is also the first Looney Tunes project confirmed recently, and it's the first one since Zaslav took over the studio. If this movie is made, it currently has an estimated release date of 2028, and because it's this team, I'm guessing it's going to be CGI. While this movie is supposedly the shining light of the Looney Tunes, as it's the only thing Zaslav has greenlit and now outright killed, I am still a bit skeptical of its future because of the otherwise environment of Warner Brothers right now, and the other things Zaslav is doing that otherwise looks like he has no respect for the Looney Tunes. He's trying to kill them and burn down their legacy, plus the persistent rumors that he's also trying to sell them to another studio. Also, I do need to mention that even though we haven't got confirmation that Zaslav is actually selling the Looney Tunes, just because this movie has been greenlit, that doesn't mean that's not happening, because he could totally just sell them anyway and attach this movie as part of the sale. So all bets are still on in terms of what could happen here. It's still a complete shit show at Warner right now. I otherwise know nothing about it other than Todd once said in an interview that he's a huge Chuck Jones fan, and if he ever had a Looney Tunes movie, he would do it in a Chuck Jones style, but that's it. There's also a sliver of a rumor from last December that the movie could be a feature-length adaptation of the old short Porky Pig in Wacky Land, but I want to say that's probably not a true rumor because more than likely this is a telephone game of corruption, and the rumor is actually more pointed to the short film that came out in 2023, Daffy Duck in Wacky Land, that was made by Max Winston, which also used some CGI elements. But yeah, I would assume that because these guys only have ever made CGI movies, this would also be a CGI movie. So lastly, the last one we had the least amount of details is the Tom and Jerry movie. It sounds like this is completely not like fully planned out at all yet, but I guess this is also going to be CGI because it's the same guys. About 4 years ago, there was a different Tom and Jerry movie released by the AT&T Warner regime that starred Chloe Grace Moretz and Michael Pena and Colin Jost and had a cliche, stupid, what if this cartoon was real but for some reason took place in New York City storyline to get that sweet New York City tax incentive credit. I saw this when it came out and I barely remember it. I remember it was less about Tom and Jerry and more about Chloe Grace Moretz's main character just being a terrible person because she was this scammer career criminal that got away with everything because she was a cute white blonde. And she even gets caught at the end of the movie and then they're like, nah, you're a woman. Women can't be criminals. So you get to keep that job you got with your illegal fake resume. And look, Hack-Tua Girl stole $1 million, so I guess that was all true. Anyway, stupid plot aside, the only thing I can praise about this movie was that the interesting choice the movie made was that showing that in this universe, anything that should be an animal is actually a tune. And I was kind of wondering if that extended to like the cows, fish, and chickens that everyone was eating. But anyway, yeah, the rating on this movie has slowly gone worse and worse over the years. So now IMDb has it at like a 50. And for other rating sites, it's like all the way down to like the mid 30s. I feel though like it's worth mentioning that since Coyote vs. Acme is coming out, supposedly a lot of people who worked on this movie also worked on Coyote vs. Acme, and therefore it has a very similar art style. But supposedly Coyote vs. Acme is much better because it has a better script and better focus on what's going on. Anyway, I guess that's everything that's worth talking about that happened recently. So yeah, what do you guys think about this story? Are you excited for Fiona and Cake season 2? Simpsons season, like, what is it, season 40 or something? More American Dad, more whatever this is. Flintstones movie? All right, leave me one in the comments, and I'll see you next time. Night.